Hi, it's Connie in Bodhanath, Nepal. Today I want to talk about approaching a Tibetan sentence. Now that we've got all of this grammar together and now that we have all of these tools at our disposal, we have to figure out how to actually implement them and use them. Now this can be a little bit daunting at first because if you look at a classical Tibetan sentence, sometimes sentences can be really long. Sometimes they can be over a page long. So it's a little overwhelming for a beginner at first to figure out what to do, how to start, where to start with the translation, or just trying to decipher what to do with this kind of a sentence that's so long. But there are a few strategies that you can use. One thing that's usually pretty helpful for beginners is to start at the end of the sentence and work your way back toward the beginning. So remember what we've learned about verbs is that the verb always comes last in the sentence. So if you can look at a sentence, go all the way to the end and try to find the final verb of the sentence. And remember, if you can identify what type of verb the final verb is, then usually you can figure out or kind of guess at the general structure of the sentence from there. So, for example, if you see a transitive verb, you can remember that the agent will be marked with an instrumental particle. So then, if you find the transitive verb as the final verb of the sentence, you can start looking for an instrumental particle. Another way to identify the subject of a sentence is to look for the ni particle. Remember that the ni particle signifies the subject, usually. So after you've figured out the verb and the subject, you can look for an object, if there is one, in the sentence. Again, remember this depends on the type of verb that you're using. So it's also important to pay attention to all of the particles in the sentence. So if you can find a particle, you need to figure out what its function is in the sentence. So unlike poetry, where syllables can sometimes be eliminated, or you can have extra particles that are stuck in that don't have meaning just for the sake of meter, in prose, every single particle has to be accounted for. Now sometimes in longer sentences, you'll have other sentences or longer phrases embedded within that sentence. So if you come across nested phrases or nested sentences within a sentence, try to break it apart and try to work with those parts individually. And once you understand what each of those parts is doing, then you can put them all together to look at the whole sentence as a whole. If you keep these things in mind, you shouldn't have too much trouble when you begin to look at text and when we begin our group translation project. And remember, if you have any questions at all about anything with translation, approaching Tibetan sentences, grammar, anything like that, please don't hesitate to look at our discussion board.